This is the Badger247 podcast with your host, Evan Flood.
Just remember, it could always be worse, right? In the biggest Big Ten news of the weekend, it's not Wisconsin falling to Washington State. It's Nebraska getting upset at home to Georgia Southern. So maybe there's a few people out there that didn't see Wisconsin's loss as a 17-point favorite, although I know everyone here listening did. Going to be a loaded show today. Don't even have time to bring on a guest. There is a lot to unpack, a lot I got to get off my chest about what happened at Camp Randall Stadium on Saturday. Worst loss for this program since 2019 at Illinois. Worst home loss since 2018 against BYU. The worst part about this one is it was completely self-inflicted. There were a lot of mistakes, 11 penalties, obviously. I counted 5 miscues in the second half. I feel like if you take any single one of them away, Wisconsin is currently 2-0. At worst, they had a chance to play for overtime. You start in the third quarter. Wisconsin looks like they're about to get that game-changing turnover. They're leading 14-10. Jay Shaw picks off Cameron Ward, returns it near midfield, but coughs up the football, gives it right back to the Cougars. A couple plays later, they're in the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown. After the game, Jay Shaw admittedly said he felt like had he held on to that football, Wisconsin is still sitting there with an unblemished record.
I'm going to keep saying it because I really think it would have changed the game. I should have held on to the ball. And I really think right now, sitting down right now, we'd be having a whole totally different conversation. We'd probably be saying, 14, 17, we'd probably be saying like 17-10, 21-10, somewhere around there. And it'd be real beautiful. The whole questions would be different. All that would be different. So I take this one on me to be completely honest with you.
Then you start the fourth quarter with a chance to tie the game. Kicker Vito Calvaruso, I don't know what that was. He didn't come out and talk to reporters after the game, so we don't know if there's more going on with that leg injury that was bothering him throughout fall camp, or it was just a complete shank of the football. But that 43-yard attempt barely got over the line, almost took out the back judge there in the end zone. And that was his second miss of the day. He missed from 51 in the first half on what was another errant kick that went so far right, I don't even know if Bob Uecker's major league call of just a bit outside does that one justice. Then on their final offensive series, the Badgers had 4 of their 11 penalties alone on that drive. You had a pair of holding calls from center Joe Tippmann that wiped out first down runs from Braylon Allen, and they were more than first down runs. One went for 12, the other went for 16 yards. Then you get a gift from Washington State. Graham Mertz intercepted and had his arm hit on the play. Cougars pick it off, and they do the same thing Jay Shaw does. They muff the ball on the return. Wisconsin gets it back at their own 20-yard line. At the Washington State 20-yard line. Fresh set of downs. During the scrum, tight end Clay Cundiff gets into it with one of the Wazoo players. Looked like he just tried to pull him off. Mertz, who recovered the ball, he's hit with a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. So that takes the Badgers back to the 35-yard line. 2 plays later, wouldn't you know it, Wisconsin looks like they're going to get the first down. Cundiff catches a pass over the middle, turns upfield, doesn't necessarily see the defender. Ball comes out, Cougars have it. Wisconsin never gets it back. Cougars run out the clock and get their first win over a ranked opponent since 2018. That was their first non-conference road win over a ranked opponent since 2003. So where do you start with this one? Obviously, the pitchforks are out. Naturally, after the game, my instinct is to generally focus on the positives. I'm getting ready to write how the Badgers dominated the game, all is not lost. it was sort of a fluke defeat. And then I'm like, I have written this before way too many times. At some point, this isn't a fluke anymore. It's a trend. Because you go back to 2018, this has consistently been happening to this program where they lose games they shouldn't because they can't get out of their own way. And you can look at this in a variety of different ways and understand why fans are so ticked off about this one. Like I said in my post-game piece, it's not that this program is above losing to teams like Washington State here and there. It's going to happen. But after those losses, you'd like to be able to at least tip your hat to the opponent and say, good game. It was your day. You can't say that after this one. Look, Washington State, not taking anything away from you. I mean, I kind of am. But there's no way an unbiased person can say Washington State is the better team. Did they deserve to win? Sure. They made less mistakes. Wisconsin didn't deserve to win that game. No doubt about it. But the final box score looks like a beatdown. It looks like I shouldn't say beatdown, but it looks like a 14-point win for the Badgers. Wisconsin outgains Washington State 401 to 253. Cougars only ran for 53 yards. Wisconsin 8 of 15 on third down. Washington State 2 of 11. Turnover battle even. Wisconsin was +1 in sacks. The Badgers held the ball for 38 minutes. Wisconsin actually averaged more yards per play than a pass-happy spread offense team that's has a very dynamic quarterback in Cameron Ward and loves to stretch the football field. And the Badgers did that without necessarily running the ball as well as they're accustomed to. All three tailbacks were under 5 yards per carry. Ches Malusi was at 2.9 yards per carry. Braylon Allen didn't get his 100 yards. As a team, Wisconsin only ran for $174. And you still averaged more yards per play than Washington State did. If the Cougars had to go anything close to the length of the field, and I'm talking their own 40-yard line and backwards, they didn't score. All 17 of their points were spotted by Wisconsin. Early second quarter, Paul Christ gambles. 4th and 3, just past midfield. Opts to go for it. Play call had no chance of working. Washington State takes over. 4 plays later, they take a 7-0 lead. Here's Christ talking about that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I do have confidence in our defense, and I thought that, you're in a position where if you feel good too, and you're offensively to, all right, this is when you gotta deliver on it, and I know a lot of it's result driven, right? That you go but I think that was the thought. I thought I still do feel confident with our defense certainly, and want to put on the offense. This is you got to go do something too to win.
Opening up the second half, Wisconsin misses a couple tackles on special teams. Washington State gets a deep return. They get a field goal out of it. And then we already talked about Shaw's interception that led to points as well. So all 17 of Washington State's points were essentially not earned, with the exception of maybe you can give them credit for that 4th down stop. I have a hard time getting on Christ for that one. I wouldn't have done it, but the knock on him is that he is so conservative. I don't think this is necessarily the time to do it. But if you look at it with an open mind, I think you can at least say he's trying to go outside his comfort zone a little bit. I think you can find a lot of other parts in that game to do it, and we'll talk about that later. But at least he didn't. I mean, fans get on him so much because he is so conservative and doesn't take a lot of risks. Well, he took one there and it backfired royally. Again, wouldn't have done it, no way. But a lot of the fans are saying, oh, it's the same old story with Chris. Well, in this case, it wasn't. The Cundiff thing, though, was the killer in the end. Tough break for the kid, too, because he was having a breakout performance, 4 catches, 35 yards, had both of Wisconsin's touchdowns. And you could tell after the game that one was hard to digest for him.
Yeah. It definitely is frustrating, disappointed in myself. Felt like I let the team down, the coaches down. Ball security is something that's a huge deal here. We practice it every day, and so slipping up like that, it really hurts.
Now, beyond all the mistakes, there's a lot of narratives here that I think is fueling the anger from the fan base, and I completely get it. The first one, you had your wake-up call last week. Or you should have had your wake-up call last week. Sloppy start against Illinois State. Almost puts Wisconsin in a hole. You got bailed out by a John Torchio 100-yard pick 6. I think there were 4 penalties in that first quarter alone by Wisconsin, 2 of which extended drives on third downs after UW had gotten those stops. Well, on Saturday against Washington State, they took it up a notch. That's the first one. The second one is that this type of loss is happening rather frequently. You look at 2018 BYU, 2019 Illinois, and then again in the Rose Bowl in 2019 as well. I don't know what to make of 2020. I think you could throw 1 or 2 of those losses in that boat, but there's so many uncontrollables. I don't know what to make of it. But then again, 2021 pops up. You open the season against Penn State in a game that felt a lot like Saturday, where Penn State didn't necessarily play all that well. Wisconsin dominated the game. Nittany Lions kept giving Wisconsin chances. Badgers never took it, gave it right back. Only difference on Saturday, Wisconsin didn't have a crutch of playing a ranked team to hide behind. And then a couple weeks later, that Notre Dame game. Anybody who watched it isn't fooled by the 41-13 scoreline. That one got ugly in the fourth, late. Badgers had the wheels come off, pretty much won that game for 3 quarters. If they move the football in any reliable and consistent manner, Wisconsin wins that game in Chicago. Third, I gotta believe if you're a fan, it's just an awful feeling to be removed from the college football playoff discussion so early. I don't think anybody believes this team was going to the playoffs, but to have it taken away in week 2 at your own doing, for fans and the guys inside the locker room, I gotta feel like that really stings. And you can sit here and say, well, we still got everything in front of us. Big Ten's still there. But going back to my earlier point, when I started by looking for the bright spot, I've tried to point that out too many times now. I think fans are tired of hearing it. I think the players are tired of saying it. Again, if Washington State just comes out and plays an incredible game, fine, so be it. But that's not what happened, and no realistic person can frame it as such. I mean, even the 3 turnovers Washington State got have asterisks on them. 1, the turnover on downs. 2, Shaw's interception return when they turned it over. And 3, their fumble after they intercepted Mertz. You can't possibly tell me the Cougars walked into Camp Randall and took this thing. Wisconsin absolutely gave it away. The last reason this is going to really sting, Wisconsin got a darn good day from Graham Mertz. They really did. I mean, this was the guy that was supposed to be standing in between the Badgers and being a really, really good football team. And for the second week in a row, Mertz not only did his job, probably went above. I mean, you look early into that game, I tweeted out how impressed I was after some negative plays happened. He obviously had the scare forcing that ball into Shimmeray DK that should have been intercepted. DK did a heck of a job to wrestle that thing back and keep the chains moving on third down there. But that was really his one big error. And he took a sack early in the game. There were also some penalties, some negative plays. And then he comes out and makes a big third down throw, standing in the pocket on third and long, and just delivers a strike. And I'm like, this guy couldn't have done that last year, the last 2 years. When something went wrong, and it wasn't just a mistake by him, when those mistakes started to pile up on the offense like that, he never bounced back. It affected him on the next play and the next and the next. So Mertz goes 18 of 31 passing, throws for 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, had the one interception that really wasn't his fault, had his arm hit from behind. And you watch that game and you're like, even the misses were good misses. That ball was being put where his receiver was either going to have a chance to make a play on it or nobody was going to make a play on it. His third down performances, too, were extremely clutch. I mean, how many times did that offense put him behind the chains with penalties? On third and long, he was 3 of 5 passing. He averaged 17 yards per completion in those situations as well, including that 40-yard bomb to Keontez Lewis late in the second quarter that set up the go-ahead touchdown. And that 3 of 5 doesn't include the pass interference that Lewis drew on another good ball from Mertz. The 2 incompletions were to Marcus Allen, who on both of those had a chance to make a play. Certainly the first one, in the first quarter, I believe it was, deep down the left side, Allen got his hands on it. It was right in the breadbasket. Second one, Washington State defender made a good play on it. In my opinion, Allen, who had inside position, needs to go attack that ball and not give the defender any chance. Regardless, it's a good miss. In all, I think Mertz was 6 of 10 passing on third down. And that used to be a huge problem for him and the Badgers. So I slightly defended Christ on the play call. Again, no way I would have done it myself, not even in Madden. But at least you're trying to shake things up a little bit. Here's what I didn't like. That second half, you had a hot quarterback. He was making good decisions with the football. He was accurate. Like I said, his misses, he wasn't putting the ball in danger whatsoever, even on his deep shots. And you could tell they were open from the jump. Washington State did not respect Wisconsin's passing game. They were putting 8-9 in the box, and that other safety was playing close to the line of scrimmage. It was one-on-one all day for the most part. You only threw the ball 9 times in the second half. You took the game out of Mertz's hands. Regardless of how you feel about him and how highly you can think of your running game, you need this guy anyway if you want to get to where you need to go. You're not going to beat Ohio State in 2 weeks by running the ball 44 times. They're going to stop it. They do every single time. You finally got this guy playing with some confidence and in a rhythm. He's got receiver talent. They're 4, maybe 5 deep. And when it's time for Mertz to finally do what Wisconsin brought him here to do, push them over the top in games that they can't necessarily win by just running it down the other team's throat, you abandoned him. Wisconsin had 17 first down opportunities in the second half. How many times do you think they threw it on those first downs? 3. And only one of them came because there was a penalty on that Skylar Bell end around and Wisconsin was backed up to a 1st and 15, I believe it was. So in reality, you ran it 14 of 16 first downs, which was also kind of strange to me because you saw in the first quarter when Washington State really had Wisconsin's run game bottled up, they sold out on every single first down. Every single time. To the Badgers' credit, they did start running it better in the final three quarters, and it looked like they were starting to wear the Cougars down a little bit in the trenches. Allen had a couple of big runs wiped away by penalty that we talked about. They were starting to get a consistent push of 4 or 5 yards. And you saw a couple Washington State interior defenders go down with injury. So I get it from that standpoint. But Chris constantly talks about going with the flow of the game. That's not what the flow of the game was. You were most successful when you put that ball in Mertz's hands. And if you're not willing to let him loose when he's hot, when are you? And then Chris has the take after the game. I don't know why this would be your first response when asked about Mertz. If you want to critique him 2, 3, 4 sentences in, fine. But based on how his career has gone to this point, the first thing I'd be doing is praising his game on Saturday. Here's Chris saying, I think Mertz took too many deep shots against Washington State.
Yeah, I thought he did, and I thought that a couple times I thought he pushed it down there when I thought there was something else, maybe a little bit higher percentage. So I am anxious to watch that and see if I was seeing it correctly. And I thought, there's certain times where we knew they were bringing the pressure, and I thought, a couple times he handled it. I thought Lyon did a good job, line backs and tight ends did a good job of giving him time to it. But, I think there was a stretch. Really, K-Luz was the first one that we hit end of the first half. I think we were 0 for 4 on kind of, and I see it, but you gotta deliver. But I thought there was some other throws there too, and I thought that he was seeing things clean. I thought that part was pretty good on his end.
All right, let's talk about the good from Saturday. Yes, there was some good. We already touched on Mertz, but through 2 weeks, I like what I'm seeing from that passing game. After fall camp, I was bullish on those receivers. Once again, there's a lot of different guys getting involved, and Graham Mertz can spread that football around. 8 different receivers caught a pass on Saturday on Mertz's 18 completions. We got to see the UCLA transfer Keontez Lewis get involved. I was telling you in fall camp, what he does best is get behind the defense. Did that a couple times on Saturday. That 40-yard reception at the end of the first half, he made that look easy from the start, but it was a difficult finish. Blew by the cornerback without much effort at all. Didn't put any fancy moves on him. Just went off the snap, got right past him. Safety's late, coming over the top. Safety's coming at him like a heat-seeking missile. Leads with the head, too. Dangerous play. Fortunately for Lewis, he was able to secure the catch and avoid the safety. Got his head underneath and completely missed most of that contact because that looked like it was going to be bad when the ball was in the air. That safety came in there with bad intentions. Wisconsin finishes with 227 yards passing. I'm telling you, they don't need to be the same one-trick pony that they've been the last couple seasons and historically have been. I think especially when you get into Ohio State in 2 weeks, I don't think anybody's expecting the Badgers to win that. But I do think they will put up a fight because this is a team that doesn't need to use the run to set up the pass. You can go the other way around. And like I say, every time these teams match up, you're not going to beat Ohio State by going with the status quo. Your regular game plan is not going to work. You've got to find different ways to attack them and put them on their heels, like you did in that first half of the 2019 Big Ten Championship game where you jumped on them 21-7. You took shots deep and you softened them up. Well, I think this is a passing game. And as bad as the offensive line was with the penalties and a lot of the things that went wrong in the run game, they were very good in pass protection. A few breakdowns, but those are going to happen every game. For the most part, I thought Mertz had clean pockets to work with. So this passing game, if I'm Paul Chris, if I'm Bobby Ingram, I start to lengthen that leash a little bit based on what I've seen through the first 2 weeks. I'm not saying you got to throw it 40 times, but I think take some more risks on the early downs. Second, I know Wisconsin's defense gave up 17 points, but as I mentioned, a lot of that was self-inflicted by the offensive side of the ball with the penalties, the decision by Paul Chryst to roll the dice on 4th and 3 just past midfield, and then the special teams miscue at the start of the third quarter. It wasn't a perfect game by any means. They didn't play up to their standards. You had missed tackles. The one Kamoy Latu had in the third quarter that led to Nakia Watson's touchdown reception, Bad error, obviously. Wisconsin was late getting onto the field on Washington State's first touchdown as well. Preston Zachman beat over the top on a play before that set up Watson's first touchdown run. They weren't lined up in position. That'll happen with up-tempo teams. Not that it's an excuse for UW. They've faced plenty in the past, but those kind of breakdowns will happen. But I really didn't think Washington State gave Wisconsin as much trouble as I thought they would, especially with their RPO stuff. Week 1 wasn't pretty for the Cougars. They barely got past Idaho. But like Wisconsin, they did a lot of damage to themselves early in that game and fell behind 10-0. I thought last 2.5 quarters, the Cougars pretty much controlled. But this kind of stuff has given Wisconsin a lot more problems in the past. Especially, Wisconsin's had some good linebackers, right? But even they've fallen victim to being undisciplined against this RPO read option stuff. It helps that Cameron Ward isn't as much of a runner as I thought he was. He didn't necessarily look to take off and hold the football a ton, which I think helped. But Washington State only ran for 53 yards. Ward only threw for 200. 17 of 28. Had the one touchdown that wasn't really created by him. It was Latu's missed tackle on a dump off. 2 interceptions. Wisconsin won that battle for the most part. Throughout the day, the Cougars only had one drive that lasted longer than 7 plays. And that was the last one of the game. Even the one that did go 7 plays, they only got 18 yards out of it. That was the first possession of the second half where they were set up by great field position after a couple missed tackles by Wisconsin's kickoff unit. All in all, Washington State only ran 50 plays. Wisconsin held them to just over 5 yards per play. Didn't even have the ball for 22 minutes on Saturday. Again, not a signature Jim Leonhard performance. Wisconsin's defense can be better. Last drive, obviously, kind of painful to watch where they go 10 plays. Wisconsin needs to get the ball back, and the Badgers can't stop them. How much of that is the team just had the wind taken out of their sails after Cundiff's fumble? I don't know. Ward also had that special play where it looked like he was going to be sacked. And kind of had an option bailout pitch that went for 18 yards or so. Wisconsin ends up getting the stop once the Cougars reach UW's 45-yard line, but with only 6 seconds left, Ward was able to just run out the clock and throw it up into the air. Cougars don't even have to punt. Going into the game, I really thought Washington State would be able to cause more problems than they did, get Wisconsin out of sorts. I wasn't sure how that, some of the new faces at the linebacker core in the secondary would react to some of the disciplined stay-home plays you have to make. But all in all, I thought they did a good job in that respect. And you got to keep in mind, too, Wisconsin really wasn't able to get home against Ward as much as they're accustomed to with most teams. Only 2 sacks on the day, one by Nick Herbig. Nick Herbig had 1.5 sacks. Rodis Johnson came up with the other half. So against dynamic quarterbacks that are really good outside the pocket, if you're letting them escape, that's had a tendency for Wisconsin's defense to be real trouble, especially with big plays in the past. Cougars had 6 chunk plays, 4 passing, 2 rushing. Again, one was the missed tackle by Latu, and the other one that came late on kind of that special play from Ward where he was improvising. And even the first one of the game I thought was really lucky because Ward was not sharp early. I thought he missed that screen badly, and it kind of threw Wisconsin's defense off because the ball did not go where it was supposed to be wide receiver makes a great adjustment on it, and he's able to pick up steam before he's even caught that ball because he had to adjust and get upfield off the misfire, and that went for 43 yards. The only one I thought that was just really bad was the one where Zachman got beat over the top by a tight end. For a safety, that just shouldn't happen. But like I said, there was communication errors. Guys were getting on the field late. Put Wisconsin on its heels a little bit, and they didn't react off the snap as well as they're capable of.
It's time for the last word.
For the last word, we're going to go to Wisconsin senior cornerback Jay Shaw. I don't think he was trying to be funny, but he had an interesting take after Saturday's loss, just kind of talking about the differences between UCLA and Wisconsin. And I'm glad he brought it up because I was going to ask him about it. Because where he comes from, giving up 17 points in the Pac-12, that's a great defensive performance. The rest of his teammates weren't so happy, obviously. Wisconsin aims for a shutout every game, no matter the opponent. So he's kind of talking about this and basically saying, I'm thinking we're doing good, and the rest of my defensive teammates are miserable. He's still adjusting to the Big Ten, too. I mean, he talked about this a couple weeks ago. I mean, he's used to being targeted 9-10 times. That's just not going to happen in most of Wisconsin's games. You got to be able to come up and play the run consistently. You've got to be staying alert even though you know the ball's not coming your way. So here's Shaw just kind of talking about what he's thinking about after the game.
Like, I'm from the West Coast. West Coast style offense, like 17 points to me, that's not a lot. So I think this is me. Nothing with the Badgers. I think it was good. Like I don't know. I just come from a different style of football. So when I 17-14 is like that's like one touchdown first half, one touchdown second half, maybe a field goal somewhere in the middle. So it's just a little different. I still got to get adjusted to it. Still get adjusted to like that grit and hard-nosed football of the Big Ten.
That'll do it for the first episode this week. Not sure how much excitement there's going to be around this New Mexico State matchup in Week 3, especially since Wisconsin's going to be coming off a loss. So we'll try and line up a recruiting guest for this week to spice things up. Tough week for some of you guys. Badgers go down. Should I mention what happened in the NFL Week 1? I don't know how many followers and listeners and maybe subscribers I want to lose by bringing it up. I know my place as a Vikings fan. Trust me, I'm not like probably a lot of the people you deal with on Twitter. I'm not kicking a hibernating bear. I know where we stand. I will take any win over Green Bay I can get, and I'll shut up about it. Although I would love to get one of those Viking horns, mount it to my deck, and just blow it after a win or on kickoff or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. So if you're doing any Christmas shopping for me, let me know. I'll get you my address. Don't bail on me or the show, though. I'm not a proud Vikings fan. I don't know what happened. I liked the color purple when I was a kid, and I took it too far. I'm sorry. I can't go back now. I've tried. There's no converting me. I'm a lost cause. Anyway, we will come back with another episode this week. Thanks for tuning in. Update, I'm hoping this is the last YouTube one. I say that a lot. Last I heard, aiming for Monday, Tuesday to get me into the system. Cross your fingers. I appreciate you guys who do listen and put up with the YouTube thing. I am headed out. We will see you guys in a couple of days.